guys. All right, we're a little delayed tonight. We had some technical issues, but we are here now. We have a great guest tonight. We're talking wide receivers tonight, so just stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 145 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are here live every Tuesday night on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Of course, also streaming in the Going for Two app and available on all your major podcast networks. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. Trying to mentally prepare to actually go into my office tomorrow for the first time in like 2 months. So we'll see how good it stays after that.
Y'all are opening up over there in Pittsburgh?
Partially. Yeah, we're moving to the yellow phase, whatever that is. But yeah, so we're partially opening up. So we're rotating people coming into the office. So it's not full time yet, but it's getting there.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, and as I mentioned at the top there, we have a great guest tonight, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, the Destination Devy podcast, Mr. Ray GQ. First time on the show, man. What's up, Ray?
Man, I'm excited. You know, when I'm on Twitter and then I see you, Jeff, at the top of my, like, going live feed, I'm like, am I ever going to make it to that show? And then here I am. Ryan, you too. But I mean,
thanks, man.
Jeff, right? Yeah, you too, man. I interacted with you, but I'm doing well. I'm safe. I'm blessed. It's football. We've had draft and rookie landing spots and hopefully college football. So I'm excited, man.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It's the one sport that we really can talk about right now because everything else has been canceled. But football is a year-round sport, and we can talk about it even without any football being played. So that's the good thing. All right. Well, I was going to do news and notes first, but there's not a whole lot of news and notes to really go over. So we're just going to jump right into these wide receivers for these rookies here. And I know, Ray, a couple podcasts ago, you had a show where you talked a lot about the wide receivers. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with you first here and give me your thoughts on the landing spot and what you see for CeeDee Lamb landing there with Dallas.
Yeah, you know, I'm an avid Dallas Cowboys fan, living out here a couple of miles east of Dallas. So I'm very much vested in the Cowboys, but I'm also very critical of them as well. And I think they hit a home run with the CeeDee Lamb pick. I think it's a great spot for CeeDee Lamb. I know a lot of fantasy gamers were, you know, initially very, very concerned about the landing spot, and rightfully so, with Amari Cooper there, Michael Gallup coming off of the season that he just had. But here, the reality is CeeDee Lamb is better than Michael Gallup, and I understand that he had 1,100 yards last year. He also was one of the league leaders in drops. And when they tried to use him as a number one wide receiver, it was clear that he was better served in a complementary role. So I am not concerned with elite players on elite offenses, and CeeDee Lamb is an elite player for me. The Cowboys with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and even an offensive line that no longer has Travis Frederick, that is still an elite offense. Mike McCarthy knows how to use multiple wide receivers. Not concerned about CeeDee Lamb. In long term, I love the landing spot for Lamb.
All right, yeah, I think when I first heard the landing spot, my initial reaction was I didn't like it, but the more I've looked at it, the more I think it's kind of grown on me because someone kind of pointed out that Randall Cobb last year had 83 targets. You know, he's gone now. Witten had 83 targets. He's now gone. You know, those targets are now there to be had for CeeDee Lamb. I know Jarwin will pick a little bit of those targets up, but I think Lamb's landing spot is definitely pretty good, especially in the long term, too. I think Cooper's deal, as big as it was, I think after 2 years, they could move on from him. I think the last 2 years is like a $20 million, over 2 years. It's kind of a lot. So I think that's possible that he could be the number one here in a few years. Ryan, what are your thoughts on CeeDee Lamb in this landing spot?
Yeah, I was a little slow to come around to it, but truth is that offense is one of the best overall offenses in the league. They, like you said, give 166 targets going away between Witten and Cobb. another 24 gone from Tavon Austin. That's a lot of ball to go around. And that's a team that's just ascending on offense. And the more they're together and clicking, the better it's going to be. I think he's going to be fine. Love him long term. I think he gives you short term value as well. I think he can give you good flex option on a week-to-week basis and probably more. But I feel pretty good about most pieces of that offense in general, even Gallup to an extent, because I was very worried about him because I do have a lot of shares.
Yeah, I think Gallup and Cooper will still be fine. I think Lamb fits in there perfectly, and like I mentioned, I think in a few years, they could move on from Cooper if they wanted to and make Lamb the number one there, and Gallup still there in the secondary role. So I think, if you were worried about drafting Lamb, I don't think you need to be worried about that. I think that's pretty much a lock right there. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the other guy. He was kind of the 1A to CeeDee Lamb's 1B coming into the draft. He lands in Denver there with a bunch of offensive weapons. And Ron, we'll go to you first this time. Give me your thoughts on Jerry Judy and his landing spot there with the Broncos.
I think it's a great landing spot from him. It's a young offense. They're going to have some growing pains, but he's going to do a lot that's going to help out Drew Lock. His route running gets him wide open, so he creates a ton of separation, which will give him those big throw windows. And he's a nice complement to everything Courtland Sutton does, where he kind of plays bully ball, where you see Judy more finesse, more getting open, run after the catch. I think they're going to work it nicely together, and I think he has an instant impact to that offense and will be competing with a heavy amount of targets with Sutton.
Yeah, I admit that this is another one that I was a little bit worried about too. I'm not quite as set as I am with CeeDee Lamb on Judy. What are your thoughts, Ray, on Judy landing in this spot here, and especially with Drew Lock at quarterback, who's kind of unproven right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to disagree this early in the show. We're only on the
Go
second
for it, man.
No, I don't want to do that, and I'm not, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I think that and I hate to use these cliche terms, the cream rises to the top and all of that foolishness, but Jerry Judy's a fantastic wide receiver. He's a good prospect, and I actually think that he complements Courtland Sutton really, really well. I just don't know. I think we're a little bit cart in front of the horse with Drew Lock. If it's going to happen, we're going to see it happen this year. I think that second-year ascension for Drew Lock, he's got all the reasons in the world to succeed. They invested draft capital in not just Jerry Judy, but Albert O and KJ Hamler. But I think in my mind, I am trying to acquire as much Courtland Sutton as possible because people are panicked that Jerry Judy is going to overtake that 1A role. And I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. And Denver was never just a sling it all over the field type offense. Maybe their thinking is in the same division with Kansas City. If we can't beat them, let's join them and air raid this thing out. I'm sort of still so-so, and not so much because of Jerry Judy, the player, but because I am not sold on that Denver Broncos offense. I'm not sold on Drew Lock supporting all of those wide receivers. So I'm still kind of on the fence with that landing spot.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think you're right about that Sutton call there, going ahead and buy them, because I noticed a guy in my league that he actually owns Michael Gallup and Sutton, so he's worried about both those guys. But I think Sutton is the one that if someone's panicking, I think I'm going out and buying him for sure. I think he is a number one there, at least for the next few years. Maybe Judy eventually takes over, but I think Sutton is going to be there 2020 and 2021, I believe, he'll be the number one there.
And his role in the red zone is not going to change.
Yep, good point.
Sutton's going to be that. He's going to be the go-to guy down low, and he's going to score touchdowns.
Good point.
He's a different receiver.
Exactly.
He's 6'3", 6'4", 220.
Yep.
However big Courtland Sutton, he's a big boy. And before we continue, let me just say I'm answering these questions of these players based off of our perception of them pre-draft, right? Nobody was talking about Jerry Judy being some complimentary wide receiver to a dominant alpha. So given what we were anticipating Jerry Judy landing with the Jets or the Raiders or something like that to what actually happened is why I'm just a little bit sour right now. But I still think he's a fantastic wide receiver. Yeah,
agreed 100%. I think he's still going to be in the top half of your rookie drafts for sure. I wouldn't not draft him because of the landing spot, that's for sure. I think we saw last year where everybody kind of avoided A.J. Brown, and that kind of came back to bite them because that offense, went through A.J. Brown basically, and of course Derrick Henry. All right, let's move on to the next receiver on our list here, Justin Jefferson. Of course, going to basically replace Diggs in Minnesota. Ray, we'll go to you first. Give me your thoughts on Jefferson pre-draft and post-draft.
Loved him, loved him, love it, love the spot, love Minnesota, love Justin Jefferson. He was my number 3 ranked wide receiver, number 4 ranked wide receiver pre-draft. I moved him up to number 3. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. I love everything about the kid's game. I like the fact that he kind of came out of nowhere and started from nothing at LSU as a lowly rated 2-3-star prospect that didn't do anything as a freshman, that produced as a sophomore and then took off as a junior. A lot of people questioned his athleticism, and he went to the combine and completely squashed that. And I think I think before the season is up, he is the number 1 wide receiver in Minnesota. And that's no slight to Adam Thielen, but I believe in the talent that is Justin Jefferson, his skill set, his route running ability, the way that he plays after the catch. I just think he's got that swagger. He's got that big stick. I'm the 1A guy. And I think before the end of the season, we'll be looking at him as that's the alpha in that offense. Love the landing spot.
Yeah, I agree 100% that I think he's going to be the alpha I think Adam Thielen is, he got a late start to begin with in his career. He's a little bit older before he broke out, and then now he's got injuries to deal with, so he's an older receiver. I don't think that he's going to be the alpha anymore. So I think eventually Jefferson will take over that role. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Jefferson in the landing spot?
I'll be short because anytime we've ever listened, anyone who's listened to the show knows I love Justin Jefferson. He's one of my favorite receivers in the class. He's been my number 3 for about 4 months now. He's awesome. His hands are unbelievable. He does everything you want. Everything Ray said is spot on. And that offense is a great landing spot for him. He has the chance to take over better than almost any other receiver in this class. It was a perfect spot for him. So, yeah, somebody's moving up my rankings. And if I drafted on the right day and I was in the right mood, he could probably get drafted higher than that number 3 receiver for me.
Interesting. All right. I did have a question that came through on YouTube that I want to just ask y'all. It's a little bit of a curveball. So y'all see the receivers that I got listed there, and none of those really are kind of sleeper guys. But Chris on YouTube wants to know, is there any guys that are sort of sleepers, some guys that maybe are going, after the 3rd round in rookie drafts or maybe going undrafted in rookie drafts that you wanted to call out? We'll go to you first, Ray. You got any guys you're looking at that you can get late in rookie drafts?
Yeah, I got 2 guys. One did not test well at the combine and tested as a poor athlete and improved on that at his pro day. But Quintez Cephas, Detroit Lions, he was a 5th-round pick. And when you look at the Detroit Lions wide receiver depth chart, it's Kenny Golladay, it's Danny Amendola, Marvin Jones, and then after that, Geronimo Allison and some people that I can't even think of their names. So I think Cephas is I'm not saying, listen, he's nobody that's going to go out there and become a top 12 wide receiver. I highly doubt that. Don't even know if he's a top 24 type wide receiver. But in fantasy, we need WR3s, WR4s. And the landing spot, here's my thing, and I'm going to say this a lot on this show. I'm looking for players that have an opportunity to get an opportunity. And I think Quintez Cephas has an opportunity in Detroit to get an opportunity to produce fantasy points. The second guy, the receiver that the Bears took, Darnell Mooney, whatever his name is, out of Chicago. When you're looking at that pass-catching group outside of Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller, Taylor Gabriel and some other players, I think his skill set to be able to stretch the field, get downfield is somebody that I'm looking to acquire late. Not even, you probably don't even have to draft him. Get him off waivers, your first run of waivers after your rookie drafts are over.
Good stuff. Ryan, you got anybody you wanted to mention real quick?
Yeah, I was going to bring up Van Jefferson. He has the draft capital, and he's in the actual draft going in the 2nd round, and he's somebody who's just falling in rookie drafts. I've seen him 3rd, 4th round, and I haven't come out of draft without him. He's a fantastic route runner. He has great hands. He just didn't perform being in that offense at Florida, so he kind of got slept on a little bit. He looked great at the Senior Bowl, and he does a lot of things that Bobby Woods and Cooper Kupp do well, and he's a guy who could find a way to integrate in that offense, especially with the way they've been rotating, guys have gone down with them, and as much as they've thrown the ball in the past, he could carve out a role. He could even maybe take over for Josh Reynolds, the 3rd receiver spot.
I love it.
Easy.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's a good call. I like that call a lot. All right, let's get back on track with these receivers here. The next one I have on our list here is Jaylyn Rhaegar. I know you mentioned, Ray, that you moved Justin Jefferson up one spot. I did as well, and I moved it up over Jaylyn Rhaegar, who I had one spot ahead of him of pre-draft. Is that what you did as well? Did you have Rhaegar at number 3 pre-draft?
Oh, no, I had that boy at number 2. Rhaegar was number 2.
Oh, nice.
Rhaegar was number 2 for me pre-draft. So I've been, listen, that's watching this show that knows me, you guys know my love and affinity and passion for Jaylyn Rhaegar. I think he's a stud. To answer your question, Jeff, love the landing spot in Philly. Love his skill set. Love his talent. Hate the fact that he's in the NFC East with my Cowboys, that we're going to have to deal with that twice a year. But I don't know if there could have been a better match for his skill set than Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz, in that Eagles offense. And more so than anything, it's not even the lack of competition at the wide receiver position. It's how much help he has underneath with Zach Ertz and with Dallas Goedert, and then a running game in Miles Sanders. He's never in his life played with a quarterback like Carson Wentz. So I just cannot wait for him to get an accurate on-target pass from Carson Wentz. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say he's never played with a real quarterback for a second there.
Basically.
Yeah, that too. So
yeah, that's something I was going to bring up.
I love the landing spot. Love it.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the stat watchers, the guys that just look at the stats and they look at regular stats and they see like, oh, this guy wasn't that good. But if you actually go and watch the tape, you know that it wasn't his fault. Let's put it that way. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Rhaegar?
Yeah, he's spotted right there at my 4. He's been right there. He's so explosive, man. He's going to make plays in that offense. There's a lot of big body guys there. You mentioned the tight ends. Even if Alshon's on the field, he's a big body guy who's going to draw some people away from him. And he's going to be able to just eat there, man. He's going to be able to make plays. He's got guys who will be able to block downfield with those tight ends. He's built to run after the catch there. I love that offense with him in it. I think we're going to see big boosts from everything with the Eagles, unfortunately for you this year. Man, it's a really good landing spot for him.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what y'all said. I mean, like I said, Jefferson moved up one spot over him, but that's nothing against Rhaegar. I think it's a great landing spot. I just like Jefferson's spot a little bit better. But really, they're kind of like 3 and 4. I can flip-flop them either way, and I'd be happy with that. So I think Rhaegar's landing spot is great. Obviously, that's a good place to go with those receivers that besides, Alshon Jeffrey, they don't really have anybody. Even Alshon Jeffrey's kind of down on his last leg as well. So Rhaegar's got a great landing spot, and I think he's going to go in, kind of a mid-first-round pick, I think, in most rookie drafts.
I think those are the 2 best spots in the draft.
Literally, I think, didn't Jeffrey have a Liz Frank injury that he's dealing with his foot, too? So,
Yep.
I mean, he's literally, like, on his last legs.
Yep.
So, yeah, and Arthega-Whiteside is not very good either. So,
Yep, agreed. All right, number 5 on this list. When the draft happened, this guy moved up the most on my board. Ryan, where did he go up on your board? Talk about Michael Pittman Jr. going to the Colts there. I didn't really have him ranked in the top 5 or 6, and I think he's number 6 for me right now. What are your thoughts on Michael Pittman Jr.?
I really like the landing spot for him. I'm not fully up at the 6th spot yet. I still have a few more questions about it, but I think he's going to give them a great red zone threat. They lost that with Ebron this year, except he has better hands than Ebron, obviously. I think he has a very specific role his first year, even while they still have Hilton and Paris Campbell on there, who are those speedier guys, small guys. He's completely different, which means he's going to have a role in that offense, and he's going to take a part of it. I can see him being a chain mover type guy, a possession player. You can see a good amount of volume year 1, especially in the red zone where it matters.
All right, good stuff. Ray, what are your thoughts on Pittman Jr.?
man, I feel good because I believe I was trying to pull up my rankings right here, but I believe pre-draft I had him 6 or 7 already, so he didn't really move up much for me. I think the landing spot with the Colts is beautiful, especially with YOLO ball Phillip Rivers. He just wants to throw it up.
Yep.
Like he did with Mike Williams, and let big boys go bail him out. But again, opportunity. I'm looking for players with opportunity to have an opportunity to score fantasy points. And I am not concerned about Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, Chester, whoever they have at wide receiver. I'm not. I just think, he was the second or third pick in the second round.
Yep.
For the Colts.
Yeah.
So he's like a first round pick. Yeah, I want that guy. And Michael Pittman Jr. was good. He was good at USC. I know he stayed late, a late producer, but he did something his junior year and then exploded as a senior. Listen, I'm a USC Trojans fan. I can give you a whole explanation on what was wrong with that team for the past couple of years. But Pittman is good. And when you talk about some of the most impressive testing metrics, for what he did at 6'4", 225, a sub 7 second 3-cone, very respectable 40-yard dash time. I think he's got a chance to really do damage year one. I like his upside because he's completely different than T.Y. Hilton. He's way different than Paris Campbell, and I'm not concerned about Zach Pascal. So I'm with Pittman.
Yeah, definitely.
Where are you taking him in rookie drafts right now?
Early second.
Okay.
Second.
I'm on board with that.
Early second.
Yeah, I think I got in my main Dynasty League, we're drafting this Saturday, I got the 202 and the 203, and I'm looking at getting Pittman at one of those spots there. And the other guy I'm looking to get in one of those spots as well is another guy. He was sort of a combine riser for me because I didn't have him ranked very high until the combine, and we saw how athletic he was, and he came up pretty high for me, and it's Denzel Mims. Ryan, we'll go to you on this one. Denzel Mims, what's your thoughts on his landing spot?
I like it. I mean, it's a huge opportunity there. They really don't have that much other than Rashard Perryman there. Sorry, there was a little barking underneath me. But he spreads the field. They lost that deep threat last year with Robbie Anderson, and we all learned that Sam Darnold has zero problem slinging it downfield. He loves to go deep, and Denzel Mims is going to be the best guy they have to do that. It's a good matchup for him. I think he's that late first-round guy for me. And, yeah, he's a very talented player, especially for what he's going to be asked to do in that offense.
Yeah, I love Mims as well. And I've heard a lot of comparisons, Ray. Give me what you think of him compared to Robbie Anderson in that offense. I think Mims is a more complete receiver. What are you seeing from him?
100%. I think he's Robbie Anderson. He's a field stretcher. I mean, that's his role. And I think that's not. I was going to call him Denzel Perryman. That's Rashard Perryman now. I think I'm combining the names, right? But I think that's Perryman's role with the Jets. And like Ryan said, Sam Darnold, you talk about Phillip Rivers YOLO balling it. Sam Darnold is fearless. He will continue to rifle it in there after 6 interceptions. He doesn't care. But I think Mims, it's a good landing spot for him. I'm not here to do the Coach Slam thing. I'm not the biggest Adam Gase fan. But the New York Jets, say what you want about Gase, say what you want about the Jets. They had a really good draft. They got protection for Sam Darnold in the first round. Got him a good possession wide receiver that wins with body control, that can utilize that big frame. They tooled up around him with Perryman, the field stretcher. So I think Denzel Mims, I don't know if it's going to be this year. He's still got Jamison Crowder there, but I think long term, it's a good spot for Mims.
Yeah, I agree. I love that spot. And just when you said protection, it kind of reminded me of a point that I wanted to make about Pittman Jr. And Phillip Rivers has never had an offensive line like the Colts have, so he's going to be standing back there like, wait a minute, there's not a million guys in my face for once in my career. I can get this ball down the field. So I think that helps Pittman Jr. as well. So just wanted to mention that.
Point.
All right, moving up on my next receiver, we got at the seventh receiver we're talking about tonight, Mr. T. Higgins. We'll go to you first this time, Ray. Give us your thought on T. Higgins and his landing spot there with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. He was the first pick of the second round. He's pretty much a first-round pick. And what I say about that is the Bengals had the entire rest of the first round. They had all night, all morning, all day to do something with that pick. And when they came up to the clock in round 2, first pick of round 2, they said, I want T. Higgins. That tells me everything that I need to know about what their plans are. and AJ Green will not be back with them after this season. Higgins will be Joe Burrow's guy, and just little stuff. There's reports that Burrow and Higgins have been working together, passing the ball. I think it's a great spot to pair your franchise quarterback with a new version. He's not AJ Green, but a new role player that's going to slide into AJ Green's role. I think it's crazy because I want to be kind of negative, but a lot of these guys landed in really, really good spots for opportunity, and that's what makes the middle of the second, the back end of the second, the beginning of the third round so just tantalizing for rookie drafts, is because these guys didn't land. CeeDee Lamb landed in the worst situation out of a lot of these guys. I love T. Higgins' spot.
Good point. Yeah, I love that as well. And just going to the AJ Green thing, I think people talk about, Tyler Boyd being there, and I think he is a perfect number 2. I think if you go back and look at his splits with AJ Green and without AJ Green, his actually stats are better with AJ Green. So if you put Higgins in that spot, Boyd's your number 2, I think you got a great offense there. Of course, Mixon's still there. He's young. Joe Burrow, of course, if he's what everyone says he's going to be, I think it's going to be a great offense in a couple of years, and that's definitely something I want to buy into for sure. Ryan, what are your thoughts on T. Higgins?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the spot. Everything he said's true. It could be somebody who may be a little bit of a later bloomer for you in fantasy. So maybe I'll buy low opportunity if I don't have a chance to get him there. But he was the guy who had me hesitating on Pittman being up at that 6th spot for me with him behind Mims and Higgins, because Higgins is good, man. He does it all. He's more than just a big-bodied receiver. And he could be that alpha dog there. I was surprised he lasted the 2nd round, to be honest. But, yeah, A.J. Green there may slow his breakout, but A.J. Green's health's been a concern for a little bit now. Hopefully he still plays, because I love watching A.J. Green play because he's dominant. But it's the perfect guy for him to learn behind. It's the perfect situation for him. And if he gets that starting job, man, he could be just devastating.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, I love that landing spot for sure. Number 8 on our list here, and I'm going to go to you, Rick, because I've heard your podcast. I've heard you talk about this guy a little bit, and I think my thoughts kind of echo what yours are. So, Mr. Henry Ruggs in his landing spot there with the Raiders. What are your thoughts with Henry Ruggs?
Yeah, for fantasy, I guess outside of best ball, I don't have any real interest. I don't have any Henry Ruggs shares on any across all of my dynasty teams. Not really particularly interested to get any. I think that it was a pick that served a need. The Raiders needed to get speed. They needed somebody to stretch the field, and Henry Ruggs does just that. And I'll just say, I always say on the pod, I always say, just because a player didn't do something in college doesn't mean that they're incapable of doing it at the next level. But it's hard for me to envision a world where we're talking about or wide receiver. Like I don't know if that's it's definitely in him, and I hope he proves me wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong about this and he goes out there and balls, because I'm from Las Vegas, so I got to root for the Raiders now. But for fantasy purposes, I feel like what he's going to do is he's going to go out there and give you a monster week, and then he's going to go absent for 2-3 weeks at a time. And then he's going to give you a monster week, and then you're not going to hear from him for 3 weeks. Like, I just don't know if the consistency is there. And then we're not even factoring in Derek Carr. We're not factoring in the other weapons around him. I just don't really have any interest in Henry Ruggs for fantasy football outside of best ball.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think that Ruggs is a great player for football purposes, but not for fantasy. I think even if he has those games where he's quote-unquote absent from the stat sheet, I think what he does from stretching the field standpoint helps everybody else in that offense. So he's doing what he's supposed to do for the offense, but maybe he's not putting up the big stats every week. So great for football, not as good for fantasy in my opinion. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Ruggs?
Yeah, I don't like the team fit for him, and he is going to be a super volatile player. I could see him being a 1,000-yard receiver at some point in his career, but fantasy-wise, it's going to be the most frustrating ways ever. It's going to be how you've seen Brandon Cooks have huge years where he's had 150-yard game, 150-yard game, one of them when he's on your bench, and then you play him and he gets you 30. Like, I can see Ruggs getting production in that same way and making you mold like me. Like, it's just, I like the player. I just know he's going to be really frustrating in fantasy. If you have him, you have to have him in the perfect fantasy team with, like, paired with very good receivers, and you're playing him in weeks where you need high point totals and need to take a chance. But that's going to be his use. And like you said, best ball, he'll be dynamite. But other than that, he's just going to be a frustrating guy to have on your team.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be a best ball guy, and he'll be a DFS sort of home run hitter guy. You put him in there and hope he has that huge game. You land that spot, so you'll get a good score for him. All right, we got a couple more to go to. We're going to do some quick fire here. We'll just do one receiver for each of y'all, and we'll go to you first, Ray. You got Leviticus Chenault. Give us your thoughts on his landing spot.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. As long as Leviticus is on the field, he'll be good when he's on the field. He's a player that, again, late second for me in rookie drafts is where I feel comfortable taking a player who didn't show an ability to stay available throughout his collegiate career, who's dealt with some pretty serious stuff. I guess the landing spot's fine. He's probably going to start in Jacksonville, but I don't think anybody knows what the hell we've got in the Jaguars or Minshew or Fournette or Marone or Laviska. So kind of meh. Yeah. Late second, I'll take him. That's fine.
Yeah, I think late second is probably where you want him for that upside. I think the upside is there athletically, but you're right. The injuries kind of scare me a little bit. And how's that offense going to look? We have no idea, so that's makes me a little bit nervous. So, all right, Ryan, you're up next. You got Brandon Ayuk.
I think Ayuk could be the number 2 receiver in that offense, making him his ceiling is the third target. He has upside. He has return potential if your leagues do that. He's an explosive athlete. I don't see him passing up Debo or obviously George Kittle, who's just a target monster. And they're not a high-passing offense, so it's going to cap his ceiling. I think he'll be a depth player on your fantasy team and could move into a flex option with maybe, if you're lucky, a wide receiver 2 ceiling.
Yeah, I have to go with you that as well. I mean, I'm a Niners fan, and I do think Ayuk can be the number 1 if they want to keep Debo sort of in the slot, but he played a lot of outside last year. No, Debo in college played a lot of slot, but he played a lot outside last year, and they used Sanders in that slot role, and that's where I think Ayuk's going to slot into. I think we've said this before in the podcast, but Shanahan offenses have only supported one receiver before. He's never had those 2 dominant receivers. He's already got Kittle there. I don't know if it's to be a sort of a vampire thing there with Debo and Ayuk taking each other's targets from each other. So it's going to be tough to kind of feel that one out week to week. Going back to you, Ray, you got Mr. Chase Claypool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't really know what you want me to say, Jeff. Like, do I like his landing spot? I don't think it really matters. I'm not a Claypool fan. Sure, I think Deante Johnson's way better. Of course, Juju, Eric Ebron. I'd rather have any of those guys over Claypool. I just don't think he's a very good wide receiver. I don't. Pittsburgh has a history of doing great things with wide receivers, so we'll see what they can pull a rabbit out of this hat. But I have zero interest. I couldn't even tell you what round I would take Claypool in. Because I'm not going to – well, I think I took him in one place because I had no other options. But I really don't think anything of Claypool. Sorry, any Notre Dame fans out there. I promise you. I love Jaylyn Smith. I don't have this Notre Dame bias. I'm not a fan of that type. I'm just not a fan of Claypool at wide receiver.
Were you of the mind pre-draft that he should play tight end? Because I heard a lot of that coming into the draft.
Yeah, I think if I just care about the designation. I don't care if he would line up in line, but move him as a flex type player, right? Whether it's H-back, Jalen Hurd, Evan Ingram type. He's big enough to do it. I just need the designation. I just need that TE designation.
Yep.
And if you told me a year from now he would have that, he would skyrocket up my board.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Ryan, finish this out here with the top 12 that I had here. Mr. Bryan Edwards, the second receiver here from the Raiders.
Yeah, I like Bryan Edwards. I think he could get more volume and consistent volume than Ruggs. He may not have the ceiling, but he has fantastic hands. He plays strong. He boxes out. He runs solid routes. He has good enough speed for his size. I've been a Bryan Edwards fan for a good part of the draft process. I have him over probably the last last four guys we've talked about. I'm very sad I don't have any shares of him yet. But no, I think Edwards is a stud receiver, and I think he has the opportunity in that offense to be a big piece and somebody Carr can trust.
All right, good stuff. All right, we're up against the commercial break here, guys. Before we go, is there anybody else that y'all want to bring up? Ray, Ryan, anybody that we didn't talk about that you want to just talk about real quick? I'll take that as a no.
Not that I can think of. Yeah, not that I can think of off the top of my head.
All right, good stuff. Quick commercial break, guys. When we come back, we're going to look at the second-year wide receivers that are coming in to this year, last year's rookie class, and see if we can find a diamond in the rough for you, some guy that might break out this year. So hold tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. Going for 2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Ray and Ryan, and we are talking wide receivers tonight. We just covered the rookie class for 2020. Now we're going to kind of look at the 2019 class and some of the guys that did not have a good rookie season. We're going to exclude the guys like A.J. Brown, Debo, Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf. Those guys already broke out for us. They're already going to be high ranked. So look at some of the guys that had a less than stellar rookie career and see if they can step up this year. So we'll start it off here with the guy for the Patriots that spent most of the season kind of injured in and out of the lineup. And Ryan, I'll go to you first on your thoughts on Nikhil Harry coming into last year's rookie draft. He was probably the number one receiver, and he didn't really do much in his rookie season. You seen any kind of breakout for him this year?
Yeah, Nikhil Harry's a huge buy for me. I love the talent. He does everything he wants. He's strong. He runs after the catch. He has good hands. I think he just needs the opportunity, and I know we have no idea what that offense is going to look like this year, and there's not a ton of talent at really much of it. So a guy like that has all the opportunity in the world for a breakout season. So if I have a chance to get him on the cheap, I'm definitely doing it. And he was a top 5 receiver for basically everybody last year. I can't see talent disappearing like that. It's just one of those parts you have some patience, and he could have a huge year this year.
Nice, I love it. And just real quick, I want to get this question in here because he's a fan of the show, and I want to make sure we get this. So when I asked at the end of the break if there's any guys we hadn't talked about yet, and our boy Rhinos on Periscope yelled a guy out with triple exclamation points here, and I want to get your thoughts on him, Ray, real quick. Duvernay for Baltimore, and Ryan, I'll get your thoughts too. I know you're a Baltimore fan, but I want to get Ray's thoughts first on Duvernay and his landing spot.
Big play, Duvernay. Yeah, I talked a lot about him during the college season. I think it's an interesting landing spot. We all know that Baltimore wants to run the ball. It's a run-first team. They invest in draft capital in Dobbins. You got L. Jax back there. I know Marshall Yanda's retired, but they drafted an offensive lineman. I don't know, because I like Miles Boykin. He's somebody that I'm buying like crazy because I think he's going to take a step forward this year. We'll see. I think he can carve out. I think he can be better than Willie Snead was in that slot role, and Duvernay played a lot of slot at UT, a solid possession receiver with legitimate wheels. I think he could be another. Lamar Jackson needs as many targets as possible, and with Marquise Brown, he's always one shoestring tackle away from an injury. So I think Duvernay fills a role for the Ravens.
Ryan, what are your thoughts? Because I know you're the Ravens fan here.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring him up on the anyone to mention thing, but I was trying to avoid being a homer on it. But no, I like Duvernay, man. I think he does a lot well that Baltimore needs. He's really good in the slot. He played like 99% of the slot at Texas. His hands are unbelievable, and after the playoff games, we saw Snead drop 5 balls. Jackson needs a guy like that who he can trust, who he knows is going to bring it in. It may be a guy who could be a little bit delayed with Snead being there, but the way the team talked about him, the reaction Harbaugh had, pumping his fist and going nuts on camera when they made the pick, they love him there, man. He blocks, he does all the little things the Ravens want. He's going to carve out a role in that offense. So I think he's going to be a good buy. And shout out to our boy Matt Hicks after sniping him in the Dynasty Draft Room League. He was not a happy camper.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was definitely awesome. All right, we'll get back on track here. Nikhil Harry, Ray, give me your thoughts on Nikhil Harry with the Patriots and what you think he might do this season.
I mean, it's crazy. Wasn't he a first-round pick, a year ago? Second wide receiver off the board. And you can go, I'm using the word cheap, but you can acquire Nikhil Harry. And in some places, he was going 101, 102, depending on your league format. I think if it's going to happen, we're going to see that step forward this year. Jared Stidham, I know he and Nikhil Harry were on the friggin' B team quite a bit, so there was probably some rapport and practice there together. But I'm still a big fan of 6'4", 220 pounds, and the talent that he has. And when he did get the ball in his hands, the few times that he did last year, he looked fine to me. I don't know why people are so down on him, calling him a bust. He didn't play enough to even how are we considering a guy who didn't play a bust? I mean, I'm still in on Nikhil Harry, and I want him if I can get him wherever.
Yep, I'm with y'all both on that one. I just did a 17-team guillotine league, and I got him super late. I was excited to get him. I think his upside is definitely there. He'll get all the volume that he can handle, I think, this year. So definitely buying Harry everywhere I can. All right, number 2 on this list here, and we mentioned him a little bit earlier, and you weren't a fan of him, Ray, so I'll go to Ryan first here. Paris Campbell with the Colts. Is he pretty much dead in the water now that they got Pittman Jr. there?
Yeah, I think as a player, he's kind of gadgety. Put it that way. They're going to use him on like end arounds, get him the ball in space if they can, but it's really not going to be a huge part of that offense. It's not going to be something I'm really banking on fantasy-wise. If you can get somebody who will buy him, I'd go for it because I'm probably not going to have any shares of him.
All right. And yeah, I think you mentioned before you weren't a fan either, Ray. Is that right? All right. We'll move on to number 3 here. This is a guy that I actually love, and I put him on this list. He had sort of kind of a breakout last year. I mean, he was good enough to start some weeks. He did kind of disappoint towards the end there. But Darius Slayton, Ray, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on Slayton there with the New York Giants in this year going forward?
Yes, big fan of Slayton. I gave up a 2021 second for him in a league, and I'm a big fan of Slayton. And the fact that they didn't invest, I don't think they drafted a wide receiver.
Nope.
If they did, it had to have been late. Golden Tate's got his role. Sterling Shepard has his role. I want the young guy that has the wheels to stretch the field. I want those explosive points. Slayton, he showed well. I mean, he showed enough flashes, and he did this with a rookie quarterback behind a makeshift offensive line. Will Hernandez last year. They went Andrew Thomas this year. That's more protection for Daniel Jones. Hopefully you get Evan Ingram back healthy. Saquon's right. I like Slayton's potential long-term in this Giants offense. I'm a buyer. I'm a believer in Slayton, and I want him, and where he's going in startup drafts. I think it's a screaming value for a team that didn't invest in a wide receiver.
Agree 100%, and that chemistry that he had with Daniel Jones right off the bat there too definitely helped his stock a little bit. So I'm a big fan there. And we're getting a ton of questions on Facebook and Periscope, trying to get to all of these questions here. A couple more questions about these rookie receivers. And Ryan, I'll ask you this one. I think you were a big proponent of him, pre-draft. But Mr. Donovan Peoples-Jones, what are your thoughts on him as far as a sleeper goes in fantasy right now, Ryan?
I wasn't a huge Donovan Peoples-Jones fan. I really wasn't. I think he's a good athlete. The production was kind of bad at Michigan, but that was a lot of part to it. But he's having a really hard time finding a role in that offense. Talent aside, what we know is there, what's not there. he's behind OBJ, he's behind Landry. They have Njoku, they have Austin Hooper, they have Chubb, they have Hunt. Where it doesn't matter how good he is, where's he getting the ball at? Like, and I don't care how many times we see OBJ getting trade rumors, it's not real. Like, come on, man. This he's buried on that offense. He has limited production in college, and he was picked in the 6th round. If I get him in the 5th round of rookie drafts, cool. But I'm not going out of my way to get him.
Fair enough. All right, let's just stay with you, Ryan. Give us your thoughts on Darius Slayton then.
Yeah, I like Slayton. I'm a little sad I sold him this offseason when I did. But, yeah, he's talented. They didn't pick up a receiver in the draft. I really thought they were going to, which shows what they believe in him and that offense. So, yeah, he's definitely a guy with where he's getting drafted. I'm buying him when I can.
Good point. All right, let's move on to the next one on this list. And I kind of did this on purpose so that it would end up on Ryan first. Mr. Miles Boykin, who we talked about a little bit earlier when we talked about Duvernay. I bought Miles Boykin last year. I loved him, and I bought him super late. He's still sitting on my taxi squad. Ryan, can I activate Miles Boykin this year, you think?
Yeah, Boykin's going to be starting in Baltimore as a wide receiver, too, on the outside. They love him there. He does all the things the Ravens want. He started to play very well in the playoff game later on when people were getting hurt. I think he's a guy who's going to have a nice breakout season. I bought him everywhere I can. I'm a huge proponent of Miles Boykin. He's a freak athlete. He's talented. He's shown big play potential in the NFL. It's just a matter of him getting the opportunity, and I think this is the year he has it.
Good stuff.
Jeff, can you cut this out? Can you cut all this out? Because I'm trying to still be able to get him. I bought him for a 2021 4th the other day. So just cut all of this out, please.
All right, I'll cut it out, man. I won't even ask you your opinion on him because we know how much you love him already. So we'll move on to the next one here.
Don't ask me. Bye.
Hunter Renfro, Ray. What's your thoughts on Hunter Renfro? Now they got all his receivers there. Does he kind of fall down to 3rd or 4th on the pecking order there?
Oh, look, man. I didn't think Hunter was going to be able to carve out a role in the NFL, but the dude's a good slot receiver, man. I mean, he's good at his role, and I think that's his role. I think he's going to be the slot receiver. Now, does that mean he's the 3rd option? Does that mean he's the 4th option behind Waller, Ruggs, Edwards, Williams? I think he's a starter. He's a starting wide receiver for an NFL team with a quarterback who doesn't like to throw the ball downfield and push it downfield a lot. So in PPR formats, I have a lot more interest in a Hunter Renfro than maybe in half point or, God, who plays in standard leagues. But if you do, then I think he's going to be a more consistent fantasy producer than Henry Ruggs. Of course he doesn't have the upside. Of course he doesn't have the ceiling. But consistency, I think you can lock in, 4 or 5 receptions. I think he's that type of player. Anybody who knows me, I despise lazy comps based off of physical appearance. So the natural comp is always Julian Edelman because he's a slot wide receiver. But I think his role is going to yield for targets and opportunity.
Good point. Yeah, I love that because you're right. I mean, Ruggs kind of fills that deep role. I think Edwards can be that volume on the outside, the number 1. And then, in the slot that Renfro kind of did carve out a role for himself. And I think that he can still have value in fantasy, especially with PPR formats. All right, Ryan, next one on the list is Nicole Hartman, who I know I was buying thinking that Sammy Watkins will be moving on. They did re-sign him. So does Hardman make any impact this year in fantasy, Ryan?
Yeah, I think Hardman's a guy you can still buy. He has big play potential. I think he'll have some big weeks. You may have to wait till somebody's not healthy in that offense to be confident playing him. But the skill set's there. That offense is one of the, if not the top passing offense in the league. They're going to throw the ball all over the place. And he's definitely going to have a role due to that. And, yeah, Sammy Watkins got re-signed, but it's not a deal that can't be gotten out of very soon. And I like him there. I like the skill set. he may be another year before he has a huge impact, but you can buy him really cheap still.
All right, yeah, I agree. I think, Ray, I'll get your thoughts here on Hardman, and then these next few guys here, we'll just kind of do quick fire because I don't know if they're going to have a huge impact this year or not, but we'll do the quick fire on that. But I want your thoughts on Hardman first, especially in that offense, in the Chiefs' offense. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, that's enough said right there, Jeff. I want a piece of the Chiefs' offense, and even though Sammy Watkins is back, was he ever really there in the first place? I think there's a very, very real chance that Hardman is the third or fourth option after Edwards-Helaire, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill. And, listen, Tyreek gets banged up a little bit. Sammy gets banged up. I mean, McCole can play. And I want anybody that's – hell, we were paying money for Byron Pringle at one point in time.
Good point.
Last year. So I want anybody on that offense. Anybody. I want them all except Sammy Watkins. No, thank you.
Good point. Yeah, I remember that Brian Pringle week there. Everybody was buying him because he was part of that offense and he was going to start there. So that was definitely something to look at. All right, so these last couple guys here, we'll do a quick fire. Ryan, we'll go to you first with Andy Isabella. What are your thoughts there with the Cardinals?
I'm passing on him. I didn't get the hype to begin with. He was just kind of a dude who ran fast. He didn't do anything special other than that. And he's buried on that depth chart. You got Larry Fitz ahead of him. You got D-Hop ahead of him. You got Christian Kirk ahead of him. You have Kenyon Drake who's going to catch passes. He's not going to have a role worth having in fantasy. And I don't know if he'll ever end up having one on that offense. He's not that kind of dude.
Fair. All right, I know you mentioned earlier that you didn't like Arcega-Whiteside, but go ahead and just kind of expound on that a little bit. What are your thoughts on him in this offense? Does he have any chance at all to succeed in this offense, Ray?
I mean, there's a chance that I can go to a Dallas Cowboys tryout and they may pick me up even at 34 years old. There's a chance, slim to none. So, yes, there's a chance that Arcega or Sega, whatever his name is, if anything, I think, being realistic, I think his role in the NFL is like a red zone threat. That's what he did at Stanford. Jump ball guy. He's a big-bodied wide receiver. But as far as, like, being the guy, absolutely not. I don't think he's a number 2 guy. I'm just not interested in that type of receiver. His skill set, I'm fine with that. I'll take a lot of wide receivers before him.
All right. Ryan, quick fire. Kelvin Harmon. What are your thoughts there with Kelvin Harmon?
I'm buying Kelvin Harmon cheap. I love Kelvin Harmon last year. He was very high in my rankings. He's the top 5 guy for me before the draft started. He was their second leading receiver in yardage last year, which nobody in the world noticed because their offense is that piss poor. But you know what, man? The opportunity's there. It's going to be him and Terry McLaurin. He has the opportunity to be their red zone threat, get heavy targets. If that offense gets going at all, man, he has a chance to be good at it. He's definitely their number 2 receiver. Paul Richardson ain't that dude, neither Steve Smith. It's him and McLaurin show. And, I like him. I'm buying him, and you can get him for free. All
right, good stuff. Obviously, you like the Harmon pick as well there, so let me give you this next one here, Ray. Mr. Akeem Butler, who was kind of the fantasy darling coming into last year's rookie drafts and went super high and then went, just didn't really pan out at all.
I feel disgusting. I took a shower before the show. I'm going to take another one when it's over because I'm covered in filth. But I'm mildly interested in buying some Akeem Butler for 4th round picks. Like, I think it's worth a shot, right? He didn't do anything as a rookie. He did nothing. I don't even think he played. But another year, this offense, they want to throw the ball. Maybe. I'm not. My toe is still. I'm still touching the tub water with my toe, just testing it out. I'm not complete. I'm not off of Butler like I am Whiteside. If he doesn't do anything this year, I'm out. But okay, a 4th round pick in 2021 or 2022, sure, I'll take a shot on Butler.
All right.
Butler, Isabella.
Butler.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we got two more on the list here. I'm gonna change that last one there because someone just asked me a question in the group there, and I'm gonna replace Ridley with the guy that they asked about. But let's go to Deante Johnson first, Ryan. What are your thoughts on Johnson?
I think Deante Johnson had a huge year, man. That offense, they didn't pass last year, but that's because they had scrubs throwing the ball. Big Ben, I don't know if he's healthy. I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was, but he's better than what they started last year. They threw the ball almost 300 more times when Big Ben was in there than last season. He's going to get volume. He showed that he is just electric with the ball in his hands. He gets open. He's going to be a target monster in the slot. Deante Johnson's way higher on this list for me than a lot of the guys we talked about. He's really good.
Yeah, and this wasn't any kind of ranking when I wrote these down. Basically, I just went through and Googled like second-year receivers and just wrote them down the order they listed them. So that was the order I put them down in. So yeah, I had Riley Ridley as my last one to talk about, but somebody on it was Derek Buck on Facebook asked about Preston Williams. Of course, he had a good start to his season, then got hurt, didn't play the rest of the year. Ray, what are your thoughts on Preston Williams, especially coming in with that that new coaching staff, new offense, and everything else they got there?
Of all the receivers we talked about, these two, Deante Johnson, Preston Williams, if I had to tier these guys, they'd be in tier 1 with Nikhil Harry for second-year guys for me. Preston Williams, he was showing flashes last year before he got hurt, and now you equip him with Tua, or even if it's Fitzpatrick, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're going to throw the ball. Devontae Parker, they read him up, so he's back. I think Preston Williams is a fantastic number 2 wide receiver, and I can't wait to see those two guys grow with Tua over the coming years. So if you've got league mates who kind of sleep at the wheel because Williams didn't play towards ACL, blah blah blah, go buy Preston Williams. I'm a big fan of P-Dub.
Love it. All right, that wraps up the guys I wrote down. Is there anybody that we haven't talked about, second-year receiver that y'all want to talk about, or a rookie that y'all thought about after listen to the first couple of them?
No, I think we had a lot of guys there.
We definitely did.
Ryan kind of dismissed my guy Steven Sims, but I'm a fan of Steven Sims, man. I think I'm a fan of his role. Right, he's a speed slot guy, and I was at the game where he shredded Dallas. I think it's Harmon, it's Sims, and it's McLaurin in that offense, and it's I don't think it's, I know it sounds disgusting, but I think he's all right, man. I tried to get him for a whole bunch of picks at the end of my draft from a guy today, and he was like, no. I got offered like my last 6 picks in this long ass draft for Steven Sims, and he said no. So I like him.
Yeah. I live here in Washington, and they talk about him a lot on the radio too, as having a bigger role this year, and how they're excited about him in this offense. So it could be fun to kind of see him kind of blossom into something as well. All right, it's time for the favorite segment of the night, the Forgotten Fantasy Player.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Ray, and I forgot to remind you about the Forgotten Fantasy Player, so hopefully you remembered. I know at one time I forgot to remind somebody, and they didn't have somebody ready to go, so hopefully you're prepared for this. Who was your Forgotten Fantasy Player this week?
All right, so the first year I ever played fantasy football was 2005. It was the year, my first year of college. And the only reason I got into it is because during our orientation, they told us we're not allowed to play fantasy football for money. So, of course, what did we do? We started a fantasy league for money. Right. And I'm very embarrassed of my first-round pick in that draft. I think I picked at it was only 10 teams, so I think I was like 8th or 9th pick. But can y'all guess the player who, you're not going to be able to guess, played for the Tennessee Titans, and he had 80 receptions, over 1,200 yards, and 11 TDs.
Derek Mason.
6'5" from UCLA. Who?
Derek Mason.
No, you said 6'5", it ain't Derek Mason.
Yeah.
6'5".
Yeah, I didn't get that. I said it before you said 6'5".
He's a wide receiver. He's white and didn't play in the slot.
Oh, man.
My first-round pick in 2005 was Drew Bennett from the Tennessee Titans.
Wow.
Yeah, I took Drew Bennett because I didn't know what I was doing, but it just had like the stats from last year, and he had 1,200 yards, 11 TDs, 80 receptions, 16 games. I picked him in the first round, and that dude never eclipsed 750 again in his career and was out of the league in 4 years. But Drew Bennett was my first round pick in my very first fantasy league. Drew Bennett.
Nice. That is a good one. I like that because
This might be the first time it was a player who I couldn't remember at all.
Yeah, really. It's one of those things. I was like, who
good.
the heck was that? Did not fit the description at all. Go ahead.
He was. I mean, and growing up in Vegas, like I was I told you at some point in the show, I'm a big USC fan. So watching him at UCLA, I'd seen him a lot, and I'm like, man, he's good. And then he finally like broke out in the league. First round pick, first ever fantasy league was Drew Bennett. So that did not work out well.
Oh, dude, I just brought up his numbers. Yeah, he was like,
yeah,
he came out of nowhere. He went from 320 yards, 400, 500, 1,200.
Yep.
Like,
wow.
That came out of nowhere.
Yep.
Wow. All right, guys, that wraps the show up. We packed a lot of content into this show. Great show, Ray. I definitely need to get you back on the show, man. Like I said, your podcast is one of my favorite to listen to. Whenever it pops up on my Spotify feed, I definitely check it out. But go ahead and tell everybody where we can follow you at, and anything you're working on, you want to plug anything, go ahead and hit that as well.
Yeah, Ray GQ on Twitter. Just interact with me, holler at me on there. Love college football. I'll kind of try to focus my stuff on rookies and college football prospects. That's just a passion of mine, but I definitely pay attention to the NFL game. Podcast Destination Devy, and then YouTube channel Destination Devy. Check it out. I got a whole bunch of, if you're looking for coaches film, all 22 film, I got a ton of it up there for free. I've got shows on there, player breakdowns, really trying to grow that fan base and provide actionable, entertaining content for you to Devy and Dynasty better. So check out Destination Devy on YouTube. Check out Destination Devy on Twitter. And holler at me, and you better do it now while it's free, because I'm gonna start charging folks here pretty soon. So you better get in while it's free, because I'm gonna start charging soon.
Good stuff, man. And like I said, I will put
hey, Jeff, Ryan, real quick, can I just say that I appreciate y'all, man? Like the quality of what you guys do, man, and doing this live, nothing but respect for you two, and truly. I appreciate you guys having me on. I really enjoyed it. I've kind of limited my podcasts, but I really want to be on here. So thank y'all, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, man. Anytime. Yeah, definitely, man. Like I said, you're one of my favorite podcasts to listen to now. And the funny thing is, I don't even play Devy. You know what I mean? I don't even watch college football, but I like listening to the podcast. You spit a lot of knowledge, and you do something that I can't do. You roll solo a lot, and I can't do solo. I just can't do it, and that's something I respect because talking for a half an hour to yourself is a little bit nerve-wracking, to say the least. So you do a great job, man. I appreciate it. All right, Ryan, give us your Twitter handle and if you work on anything right now.
Find me Ryan Searfoss at Fantasy FB Connect. Find me at GetUpFor2.com and the Dynasty Draft Room. Dynasty Draft Room, check out our rookie guide. We just released it with the updates, with player landing spot evaluations for 91 prospects. It's $10. Check it out. It's awesome.
Definitely. All right, as always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. You can find me in all my Facebook groups, obviously all over Twitter. The show's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes, wherever you want to find it at. We do have a big sort of collaboration podcast coming up here sometime in June. We're doing our pros versus Joe's mock draft. We're currently doing the mock draft right now. Ray's actually part of that mock draft, and then we'll rate them and kind of go through them one at a time on the podcast. It's a lot of fun. We did it last year. We give away some prizes, so it's a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, guys, great show, and that's a wrap. We'll see you next time.